Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is facing even more calls to resign from office. This has been a saga that has really erupted over the past week when it was revealed that multiple times over the last 2 or 3 years on social media, before she was ever a politician, even before she ran for office, Taylor Greene was liking Facebook posts calling for the execution of Democratic members of Congress. Then, of course, we had the video of her harassing a Parkland shooting survivor on the street, her harassing a teenager, a child, following him and harassing him on the street. Then we got the reports, and she even posted video of her and her staff harassing fellow member of Congress Cori Bush, to the point where Cori Bush has now been forced to have to move her office away from Taylor Greene because the woman is insane. And the Republicans have just been completely silent on this. You've had a couple Republicans come out, sure, yeah, and they're saying, hey, we need to not be like this. None of them have called for her removal. No, well, they haven't even called for her to be censured. They just said, hey, we need to stand up to this. You stand up to it by expelling it. And the silence coming from Republicans, the silence coming from Republican leadership is deafening. Yeah, I think Mitt Romney also spoke out about it. Cool. You're in the Senate, though, not the House. There's literally nothing you can do except maybe phone up your niece as the head of the Republican Party and say, hey, Ronna, it's Uncle Mitt. Could you get your act together and get this woman out of office, rally the troops, get the party going? Gee, Mitt, I don't know, maybe you could do that, but I'm sure your stern statement of disapproval is enough to satisfy your constituents, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene is the Republican Party now. The Republican Party is Marjorie Taylor Greene. There is no separating the two. They are one and the same. That is what they have become. They are the party of crazy people who believe that a Jewish billionaire has a space laser that started the California fires. That's another thing she actually claimed last week, or she didn't claim it last week. It was revealed last week that she had said this in the past. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not just a threat to the Democratic member of Congress she's endorsed their execution. She's certifiable. I mean, this woman is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at this point, thinking that some kind of billionaire out there has a space laser to start California wildfires. You belong in a padded room. But instead, she's wandering the halls of Congress, literally harassing members of Congress. This is insane. It is insane that we have allowed the country to get to this point, but we all knew this was happening. We all knew this was going to happen. When Donald Trump got elected and he brought his crazy conspiracy theories into office with him, we always said, pretty much all of us in leftist media, we said, the next one's going to be even worse. The next one's going to be even worse. The next one's going to be even worse. And hey, I'm willing to say right now, Taylor Greene is a hell of a lot worse in terms of her mental stability than Donald Trump is. And again, Republicans are silent because this is who they are now. They're the party of Trump. They're the party of Taylor Greene. They're the party of Boebert. They're not the party of rationally thinking human beings. So why isn't anything getting done? In addition to Republicans being completely silent, Democrats, unfortunately, do not have the numbers needed to expel her from Congress. You have to have a 2/3 majority to expel someone, which would be, I think, 290 out of 435. Democrats only have 221 members in the House. Republicans have 211. So you would need, what would that be, 69 Republicans to side with you in order to hit that 290 threshold. 69 Republicans. And nearly every single one of them is being quiet on the issue. So I think getting 69 Republicans, it'll never happen. Taylor Greene is likely here to stay at least till the end of this term. And Republicans have to own every second of what this crazy person does for the next 2 years. And don't ever let them forget that. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell finally decided to find his little turtle voice, and he came out and called Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene a cancer on the Republican Party. He is 100% correct, but I'll dig more into that statement in just a minute. But anyway, after he came out, said Marjorie Taylor Greene is a cancer, suddenly you had not just Greene come out and defend herself by throwing it back at McConnell, you had Fox News, all over Fox News, Maria Bartiromo, Tucker Carlson, defending Taylor Greene, saying, well, she's just new at this. She's not a cancer. Don't be so mean to her. Don't be so mean to the Q lady, to the lady who harassed the teenager who survived a mass shooting. Golly, everybody's so darn rude to her because she's a nut. Now, Taylor Greene hit back on Twitter and she said the real cancer for the Republican Party is weak Republicans who only know how to lose gracefully. This is why we are losing our country, and her statement makes absolutely no sense. The only thing you know how to do is lose gracefully. What the hell does that mean, you moron? Mitch McConnell, the guy that's been winning elections for like 35 years? Or Lindsey Graham? Like, what the hell are you talking about? The only one who lost was your guy, your messiah, Donald J. Trump. He lost. My God, this woman isn't just insane. She is also painfully stupid. Like, it brings me pain to have to talk about how crazy and stupid this human being is. But her rise to prominence within the Republican Party was totally predictable because every one of us in leftist media predicted this was going to happen. Okay, we were watching this in real time and we all knew and we all predicted it's going to get so much worse after Trump. Because Trump wasn't the problem. Trump was a symptom of the actual disease, of the real cancer within the Republican Party. So sure, Mitch McConnell, as I said, I was going to circle back to this point. Mitch McConnell's right. Taylor Greene is a cancer. But it's kind of hard to deal with that cancer right now when you let all of these other cancers grow within the party to the point where you can't get rid of them now. You let them metastasize. Now what, Mitch? This is on you, by the way. You cannot separate yourself from Marjorie Taylor Greene. You have to own this because you're the one who let the Republican Party go to hell in a handbasket because you reaped all the benefits along the way of getting to pack the judiciary. That's what you wanted. And you got it. And you sold out your own party to do it. You made alliances with these hate groups. You made alliances with these violent insurrectionists. You made these alliances. You allowed your party to get dumbed down to the point where somebody like Taylor Greene looks like a freaking genius compared to your base. And that's on you, Mitch. That's on you. So I know it's fun to poke fun at Marjorie Taylor Greene, to call out her insanity, and also to demand that she get expelled from office. But that doesn't solve the overall problem. The overall problem is the entire party, their apparatus, their base, what they stand for, the kind of people they attract. The whole damn party is a cancer on this country. And if you don't get rid of the cancer, it's eventually going to take us all down. So this week, Republicans held their super secret meeting to find out what to do with the craziest members of Congress that they have to offer, and ultimately they decided we're not going to do anything. And so House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, upon leaving that little meeting that they had earlier this week, goes and he immediately talks to reporters, of course, and he tells them, you know, if you had only heard what Marjorie Taylor Greene had told us behind those closed doors, I can't tell you what she said. But you would be on the same page as us. He also then attempted to deny that he even knew what Q was. Here's what he said. He said, denouncing Q, I don't even know if I say it right. I don't even know what it is. Okay, that's the exact quote. That's the direct quote from Kevin McCarthy to reporters. Like, I what is even this thing? The ABC people? I don't know. I don't know what this thing is. And then everybody was very quick to report on the fact that, Kevin, you as the House Minority Leader, you have actually denounced Q 3 times in just the last year. And you also admitted one time very clearly that you knew what it was. Oh, and all of those times you denounced it, you were actually able to pronounce it clearly. First one was on August 21st, shortly after Greene won the GOP primary in her staunchly GOP district and essentially locked in her seat. McCarthy discussed her ties to Q during a virtual press conference and said, quote, "I do not agree with their beliefs at all." During a Fox News interview later that same night, the GOP leader insisted that, quote, "There is no place for Q in the Republican Party," while pronouncing the name correctly, and reiterated his disavowal of the conspiracy theorists. Then, after Greene and Representative Lauren Boebert, who had also embraced Q, won their elections in November, McCarthy indicated during a press briefing that he was aware of the disturbing nature of Q when he defended the incoming lawmakers, claiming they had denounced the conspiracy theory when a reporter asked him about the issue. That was directly from Talking Points memo, by the way. So we know he knows what it is. We know he knows how to pronounce it. And now he comes out of this meeting Wednesday evening and is like, I don't even know. I mean, how do you even say it, right? Who even really knows what anything is? But Taylor Greene, man, we love her. Kevin McCarthy's lying to the public, not just, by the way, to protect Taylor Greene. That's kind of secondary to what he's doing. What he's doing is trying to downplay the whole Q thing in general, trying to say, like, look, nobody takes this crap seriously. They've clearly denounced it, even though they have not, by the way. So I don't care if Taylor Greene did, in fact, give this rousing speech behind closed doors. That means nothing, because she is still out there earlier this week bragging about this crap, talking about, keep coming after me, I'm raising tons of money off this. She is not sorry. She is not remorseful. She has no empathy for other human beings in her. Kevin McCarthy is lying to save his own ass and to save the entire Republican Party's ass. That is what is happening here. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what this group stands for, and he understands that it is slowly taking over his entire party. He just doesn't care because it doesn't threaten his own power. He lied to us because he thinks we're stupid. But luckily, all the reporters out there who talked about this, they had the receipts, and as usual, were able to easily prove that a Republican wasn't telling the truth. More than 70 Democrats in the House of Representatives have now signed on to a measure that would expel Republican freshman legislator Marjorie Taylor Greene from the U.S. Congress. This past week, new video emerged showing Marjorie Taylor Greene using the R word to describe people with Down syndrome, in addition to calling them stupid. This video was recorded, by the way, prior to her election to Congress, but well beyond any time when this individual, this grown adult woman, should have been speaking like this. It has not even been remotely socially acceptable to talk in this manner for a very long time. And as a parent of young kids that are in late grade school, middle school type, this is a talk that we have to have with our kids, because they do still throw around that word with one another. And that's why I say long past time this is socially acceptable. If you don't have kids, may not understand it too much, but yeah, they'll come home and they'll say that. And you have to sit them down and explain that you can't use that word, that this is basically off limits. You don't say things like that. And that is what we try to instill in our children. And here we have, again, a grown-ass woman not long ago using that word in a video to describe people with Down syndrome, referring to them as stupid. and then she gets elected to Congress. The video, again, just came out this past week, but it was recorded shortly before her election. She has to go, and Republicans are going to have to be the ones to do this. Democrats do not have the numbers to do it. Republicans have to stand up and understand that they have a problem. And I know Marjorie Taylor Greene has been showered with cash over the last 2 months, coming from all over the country. But guess what? She only represents Georgia's 14th district. In that district, the only people that get to vote for her are the Republicans. Last time she ran unopposed and only got 75% of the vote. So you're running unopposed and you still have 25% of the public that still says, screw it, I'm not going to vote for you? Yeah, you're leaving yourselves open, Republican Party, to somebody with half a brain to step in and get rid of this nincompoop that you continue to support. Furthermore, the damage that she does to herself spreads far beyond the borders of Georgia's 14th district, right? It goes for your entire party. This is who you are, and this is what you stand for. And if you let her stay, she is the face of your party. By now, I'm sure everybody is well aware of what Matt Gaetz is being accused of, the investigation that is going on with the Department of Justice that stems from an investigation all the way back to the Bill Barr days from the Trump administration. They were looking into one Florida man and his potential sex trafficking and other related crimes, and it led them to Matt Gaetz, and now he's under investigation for allegedly an inappropriate sexual relationship with a then 17-year-old and possibly traveling her across state lines where he engaged in sexual activity with her, allegedly, and that would violate federal human trafficking laws. Well, Gaetz has some defenders out there, and one of the defenders is Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who on Wednesday morning took to Twitter to defend Matt Gaetz and to kind of pile on with his pathetic excuse for what's happening by saying the DOJ needs to release the tapes instead of allowing another witch hunt to take place. And this is, of course, a reference to Matt Gaetz telling Tucker Carlson on Tuesday evening that there's tapes, because his family is allegedly being extorted for $25 million. He says his dad had to wear a wire at the direction of the FBI, which isn't actually something you ever admit if the FBI tells you to wear a wire. And Gaetz knows this, which is why his story is pretty much laughable. But he swears there's tapes, and the FBI has them, the DOJ has them. There's tapes that will exonerate him. Release the tapes, Matt Gaetz says. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene says, release the tapes. And both of these morons know that that's not something that's allowed. They know that that is not something the Department of Justice can do when they're in the middle of an investigation, if the tapes exist at all. Right? You can't just go ahead and publicly say, well, I know we're still investigating this, but y'all are hungry for it, so here's a bunch of evidence. Go ahead and speculate. They don't do that. And Gaetz knows it, and Marjorie Taylor Greene knows it, and most of the people pushing Gaetz's ridiculous, pathetic excuse know this. But there's a reason they're still pushing this excuse, because most average people don't understand that. They don't understand that the DOJ isn't just going to be like, well, I guess, okay, well, here's the tape. They don't do that. So they push this out there. They put that out in the ether that, oh, the DOJ is hiding all the real truth. The deep state is against me. And then they get all their little idiot followers to repeat that same talking point. They sow doubt throughout the public, throughout their followers, so that these individuals won't believe it, even if real evidence emerges that shows that Matt Gaetz did exactly what he is being accused of. So that's why they're doing it. Again, at this point, Matt Gaetz is only under investigation for this. He hasn't even technically been really accused of it. He certainly hasn't been charged with it. There's no arrest. There's no indictments. There's, as far as we know, no subpoenas at the moment. So Matt Gaetz, innocent until proven guilty. But his pathetic excuse, on the other hand, if you have any kind of evidence that your family is being extorted, which I would have to imagine that you would, right? I mean, if people say, give us $25 million or we're going to ruin your career, wouldn't there be a record of that somewhere? a meeting, maybe security footage, an email, a text message, something like something you could use to say, look, I'm telling the truth, but you're not able to provide it. You're telling the FBI and DOJ that they have to do that? Sure. That's totally a believable story, Matt. Why don't you stick with that one, okay? No. I don't believe Matt Gaetz. We'll wait and see what this DOJ investigation finds. But things aren't looking good for Matt Gaetz, and it looks even worse when the best defender you have is somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Republican crackpot / Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has officially challenged Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to a debate about the economics of the Green New Deal. Now, AOC, as we all know, has been a champion of the Green New Deal. She helped create it, and Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to capitalize on that and kind of tie her name to some kind of thing that maybe isn't crazy, I guess. But here is what Taylor Greene tweeted out this week. She said, AOC, I'd like to challenge you to a debate on the Green New Deal economic policy. Since you sponsored the Green New Deal and have a degree in economics, I'm sure you are more than qualified. So a little bit of a backhanded compliment, right, to start this whole thing off. And then she continues, AOC, people are excited about our debate about the Green New Deal economic policy. People are saying they would pay money to see it. We could debate pay-per-view style, and the money raised could be split between us for our choosing of where it goes. What do you think? Okay. All right. So now we're starting to see your motives here. You want some free publicity that isn't because you said or did something very stupid. That's what this is. On the other hand, I don't know that I'm against this idea. Specifically for the reason that it's not going to go the way that Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks it's going to go. And if you have any doubt in your mind, I suggest you get on YouTube, which you most likely already are, and you look up any congressional hearing where AOC has questioned an individual. You watch how she does these things. She comes armed to the teeth with facts and figures and attacks, and she knows exactly what she is doing. I mean, she is absolutely a powerhouse in these congressional hearings, and I have no doubt in my mind that it would be the same if she came to a debate about a policy that she is very passionate about. Taylor Greene, on the other hand, goes on in another tweet to say that her experience as a business owner, kind of would help her in her debate, but her business owning experience was actually that her parents gave her a construction company that she ran for like 9 years, and then she walked away from it 10 years ago to do CrossFit. So, yeah, not exactly the kind of, hardcore business experience that you'd want to see in this type of thing, right? You didn't start it yourself. All you had to do was basically sit there on autopilot until you got bored and were like, I'm going to do CrossFit professionally. Hee hee. And that's what you did until you got into conspiracy theories, and then you ran for Congress, of course. So, yeah, I think AOC has this one in the bag. But again, you do run the risk. Should AOC even bother giving this crackpot the time of day? Should she do this? I know there is a little bit of, I don't know one way or the other. But again, I do think she should, and here's why. Not just because I think she'll dismantle Marjorie Taylor Greene, but because the public needs to see how stupid Marjorie Taylor Greene is. All right, now hold up. I know you're all thinking, we already know how stupid she is. No, you don't. You know how nutso she is. All right? You know the conspiracy side. You don't know the absolutely brain-dead, stupid side of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Neither does the public at large. And that's what they need to be shown. I want this woman to walk out there on a debate stage, come up with all these crazy crackpot conspiracies, and watch AOC expertly shoot each and every one of them down while making Marjorie Taylor Greene look like a drooling preschooler. That's what I want to see in a debate. That is something I absolutely would pay for on pay-per-view if they decide to do it that way. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is in over her head.
not just with this debate situation, but in Congress as well. She has no idea what she's doing. She has no idea how to do it. And she's failing. All she has are these ridiculous, idiotic, crackpot talking points that she repeats ad nauseum, and it gets her on the news because she's so nutty. But let's show the public how incompetent she is as well. And that's why I do think, in my opinion, AOC should do this debate. One of the most valuable tools for any member of Congress, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, is a scapegoat. Right? Whenever you do something stupid, or in today's case, something incredibly racist, you need to have somebody else to blame it on. And that is exactly what Marjorie Taylor Greene has been attempting to do this past week. She has decided to throw her staffers under the bus and say that it was them. They were the ones who put forth the language about Anglo-Saxon values in that memo she released last week about her new America First caucus. You know, it wasn't her, even though, of course, you know, she signed off on it and she was okay with it. Totally, she didn't do it. That was them, these bad staffers. Don't you do that. We don't do that. We don't use that language. We think it, we just don't say it. I think, as pretty much anybody could guess, this is total BS. She had no problem with the language when the memo came out. As soon as hell, even before the memo came out, I guarantee you she saw it. She had to have seen it. I mean, you would have to be incredibly irresponsible and stupid as a lawmaker to let a memo go out with your name on it without reading it first. So either she is incredibly stupid, which she is, or she's lying through her teeth, and she's also doing that. So there we have it. Because again, she had no problem with this language until, of course, everybody in the country had a problem with the language. Even her own party that derided this America's First caucus and the language specifically used in that. Once everybody got pissed off about it, then she was like, oh no, whoa, hey, slow down with the finger pointing here. It's these guys, you staffers. But I gotta say, let's assume for a moment that for the first time in her life, Marjorie Taylor Greene is telling the truth, okay? So we're going to pretend for a moment that this woman actually said something that was true and that it was her staffers. What does it say about you and your little proposed caucus that your staffers read into it and said, you know what, this is probably a fitting descriptor here. Let's go ahead and add Anglo-Saxon values because, hey, why not? What does it say about you who hired the staff that is willing to put in blatantly pro-white language into your caucus memo? What does that say about you, Marjorie? Like, even though you're trying to shift the blame onto them, even if that were true, it would still fall back on you because you've clearly hired racist people to run your staff. There's no way you come out of this smelling like a rose. You screwed up somewhere. And I'm willing to bet that the place you screwed up was literally every single step along the way. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't understand how public education works here in the United States. And that is probably one of the least surprising things I've ever had to say, that Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't understand something. But here's what happened. During his address to the joint session of Congress on Wednesday evening, Joe Biden laid out his plan to provide free pre-K through 2 years community college for American citizens. So basically, from the time you're about 4 years old to up to 20 years old, education's free here in the United States, which, by the way, is almost the system we have in place now. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't understand that. She tweeted out the following after the address. She said, federally funded school from age 3 to 20 doesn't sound like education. It sounds like indoctrination. All at your expense, by force, in the form of taxes. Oh dear God, do you people hear that? We may have to use our tax dollars to pay for education here in the United States suddenly, all because of Joe Biden? That's literally never happened before, right, Marjorie Taylor Greene? No, actually it has. That's the current system we have in place. And in fact, a lot of states, I know we do here in the state of Florida, we actually, the state, even Republican controlled, gives us free pre-K for our children. That's subsidized here in the state of Florida. So we actually don't have to pay for that. The only thing we don't get is the 2 years of free community college. So that would be the only change in this plan, not just here in Florida, but in a lot of states that also provide subsidies or free pre-K education for children. Because K through 12 at public schools across the country has always been free. Okay, we're literally talking about adding a total of 3 years, maybe in some cases 4, depending on the kid's age and how the pre-K breaks down. So basically 3 years additional to what we're already paying. K through 12 would become pre-K through AA degree. That's what we're talking about here. And again, it's only like this much different than what we're already doing. And it's not indoctrination, it's education. If you believe that educating children, that teaching them science and history and math is indoctrinating them into liberal values, then you need to reevaluate where your party stands on basic intelligence, because I'd assume that's somewhere you don't want to stand. This is a good plan. It could be much better, right? I mean, we need things like universal childcare, not just pre-K, childcare. We need universal publicly funded college, not just 2 years of community college, 4 years at a public university. That's what should be happening. Education should not come at an expense unless you want to go forward and get a specialized advanced degree. Sure. That's what makes those a little harder to get for some people. But I think we also need to increase the grant programs and scholarship programs so that more people who would easily be able to master a master's degree or perhaps go to law school or get a PhD, so that it would be easier for them to do so. That shouldn't just be the rich or people who are able to get student loans that they know they can pay off that should get these advanced degrees, but that's a conversation for another day. The point here is that Marjorie Taylor Greene's tweet shows that she doesn't know how public education works here in the United States, or she thinks her followers are so stupid that they don't know how public education works here in the United States. And I'm willing to bet it's a combination of the two. I'm willing to bet that she absolutely was unaware of how this system works. And even more of her followers also have no idea how it works too. Embattled Republican lawmaker Matt Gaetz, along with nutcase Republican lawmaker Marjorie Taylor Greene, the two of them have decided to team up and go on a tour in the coming months across the country to basically destroy the entire Republican Party as we know it. And honestly, hey, more power to you. I hope that this tour does exactly what you're wanting it to, because it is going to ruin the Republican Party for good and just kind of hasten the demise of the GOP in general. But the two idiot lawmakers have decided to team up, even though Matt Gaetz is getting deeper and deeper into, we all know by the day, especially with the recent Joel Greenberg revelations, that yes, he wrote a confession letter saying that he and Matt Gaetz engaged in activities with underage girls. So yeah, probably not the best person to pal around with, Marjorie. But then again, you're no prize either, so the two of you really do deserve each other. So what's the purpose of this whole tour? The purpose is because they're going to go around the country and they're going to attack the rhinos, the Republicans in name only, across the country, the ones who they have determined are not loyal enough to Donald Trump. And of course, they say they're going to be attacking what they call the radical left. We are pretty radical if you think about it in the 80s slang term. Either way, you have the two most disgusting creatures that the Republican Party has to offer. And they're about to go side by side doing rallies across the country, even as one of them faces perhaps decades in prison based on what we know. And sure, he hasn't been charged with anything, hasn't even been accused of anything. But if what Joel Greenberg is telling us is true, Matt Gaetz is going to be going away for a very, 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 very long time. He may not even be a free man by the time this tour kicks off. But even if he is, you're talking about a guy who bad stuff is coming out about him every couple of days. Do you really, Republican Party, want this man to be the face? Do you want him to be the one traveling the country and talking to Republicans? Do you want him to be the one grabbing the headlines? I guess he already is for that. And then to team him up with Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman from Q. Y'all are signing your own death warrant here. And I know the Republican Party is not actually signing off on this, but by even allowing it to happen, by not expelling these members, which, by the way, you actually have plenty of reasons to expel both of them from Congress, but you didn't. You didn't take responsibility. You didn't hold them accountable. And now look, you reap what you sow. You get what you deserve. Karma's coming home. And these two morons are about to embark on this absolutely disgusting tour. And they're going to become the permanent crazy face of the Republican Party. And that is exactly what the party deserves. Gaetz and Greene are the face of the Republican Party. They do represent what the Republican Party of today stands for. And they're about to travel coast to coast, border to border, north, south, east, west, to show everyone in this country how crazy the Republican Party has become. Good luck with that in the midterms. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene believes that she is the smartest member of Congress, or at least smarter than most of her colleagues there. During an interview with Tucker Carlson, of course, this week, she made the comment, well, can't even really explain her comment. I actually just have to read it because it doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense, for being the smartest member of Congress. So here it is. When I got to Congress, I found out, here's why the business, it's a business. That's what Congress is. It runs the country. This is why this business is failing. Because most of the people there are not qualified to be there. It's a business, and the business is failing, apparently, according to, again, a qualified member of Congress. Look, Marjorie, in terms of qualifications to be in Congress, you just basically have to meet the age threshold and residency threshold. It's pretty cut and dry. You don't even have to be a natural-born citizen here in the United States. A resident, obviously a citizen of the United States, sure. Resident of the county that you're running in, or district, and got to meet that age requirement. That's it. That's all you got to do. Those are the qualifications. So yes, everybody serving in Congress, according to the Constitution, is technically qualified to be in that legislative body. Now, we could argue back and forth all day about who is actually qualified to be there. And no matter how you slice it, Marjorie, you're not going to be on that list. I'm sorry, you're not. You're a first-term member of Congress in your 5th month in Congress. You've already been stripped of all of your committee assignments because of your past crazy remarks. Crazy remarks that, by the way, would land any other person in this country in jail. In jail! For threatening politicians the way that she has done. And she continues to do it. All she did was get stripped of her committee assignments. And then, by the way, later on in this bizarre segment with Tucker Carlson, she went on to imply that there is some kind of homosexual relationship taking place between House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Republican pollster Frank Luntz. There's obviously no truth whatsoever to that, but that didn't stop both her and Tucker from somehow bringing it up. These are two deranged individuals talking about absolute fantasy worlds that the two of them have created, and they're basically making this shared psychosis together, Carlson and Taylor Greene. None of what they said was true. None of what they said was based in reality, but they still were allowed the opportunity to go on the air and say whatever the hell they felt like without any kind of consequences at all. I mean, they're openly saying these things about people they know are not true. It's ridiculous, and she still has the audacity to act like she's qualified to be in Congress, even though she inherited a business, from her parents. They basically handed it down to her. She worked there for a couple years before leaving. Okay, you didn't ever build a business. You barely even ran a business. You sure as hell couldn't create a business on your own. Everything in your life has been handed to you on a silver platter, just like your congressional seat, because you ran unopposed. You've never had any real challenges in your life, and yet you sit there acting like one of the most persecuted and most entitled members of Congress that we have. Somebody needs to run against Marjorie Taylor Greene, somebody that can beat her, because this woman is an absolute cancer, not just on the Republican Party, but on the country as a whole. On Wednesday of this week, Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene got into a bit of a verbal, I can't even call it an argument, really just launched a verbal assault on Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. See, what happened is Marjorie Taylor Greene is still pissed off that AOC is not debating her on the Green New Deal, even though Marjorie Taylor Greene knows nothing about the Green New Deal. Took her forever to read those 12 pages, I think it was. She just didn't have time to finish it. But anyway, she's still pissed off about that. So on Wednesday, she chases, essentially, AOC down the halls of Congress, yelling at her that she supports terrorists and Antifa. You support terrorists! Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying as she was chasing after AOC like a psychopath in the halls of Congress. This coming from the woman, by the way, who actually supported real terrorists, the ones who broke into the Capitol on January 6th. So, a little bit of irony there that Taylor Greene is apparently immune to. But it didn't end there. Even after this psychotic tirade that Taylor Greene launched into against AOC, she doubled down on it throughout the rest of the week, sending threatening tweets to AOC. One of them, here it is. This is insane. This is insane, by the way. Miss Defund the Police wants to call the police for security because she's afraid of debating with me about her socialist Green New Deal. AOC is a fraud and a hypocrite. That's fine, Sandy. Since you lack the courage and intelligence to debate me, I'll debate the person who really wrote it. Now, she's referring to the fact that AOC had called on Capitol Police to step in because Taylor Greene is being so crazy, like almost to the point of psychosis. Like I said, I mean, this is borderline psychotic what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing here. This woman is unwell. And as we have seen far too many times in this country, when somebody is that unwell, that's probably the time that law enforcement needs to step in and at the very least, maybe Baker Act this individual, Marjorie Taylor Greene, put her in for an involuntary 72-hour psychiatric hold to determine that she is not a threat to either herself or to somebody else like AOC. I think there's real grounds for AOC to be able to have her committed on those grounds. But AOC wanted the police to step in. She's called for the Sergeant-at-Arms to do something, and now she is, of course, calling on Congress to expel Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't actually want to debate the merits of the Green New Deal. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to get a little bit extra out of her 15 minutes of fame. She wants to be seen as an equal to AOC. She wants to be the right-wing version of that. But she is the one who lacks both the courage and the intelligence to do that. Now, I do admire, by the way, what AOC is doing here. In the past, I had said I think she should debate her just to show the world how stupid she is. But at this point, I don't trust Marjorie Taylor Greene enough. I don't trust her to be in the same room with AOC or really any other Democratic lawmaker for that matter. This woman is not well. And her little tantrum that she threw there, this psychotic tirade that she continued. And that's the key there, folks. That's what's showing you what's really kicking around in this woman's head. If it had been a heat of the moment kind of thing where you were mad about something else and maybe she pissed you off and you said, you got to debate me. I could see how, okay, maybe some people do crazy things in the heat of the moment. But she continued it for days because it wasn't a heat of the moment kind of thing. This is who this woman is. She is not well. She sure as hell shouldn't be in Congress. but this is apparently what the Republican Party is now fully embracing. Uh-oh. Looks like Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene may have broken the law. Again. This latest round of potential law breaking came late last week when it was reported that Taylor Greene, all the way back in December, had actually cut an ad for a super PAC. The super PAC, by the way, was Stop Socialism Now PAC. So she cut an ad for them that ran in the state of Georgia, talking about the runoff races with Loeffler and Perdue, where they both got their butts handed to them. But she was raising money. She appeared in the ad specifically raising money for the super PAC for these two races. And that, depending on which legal scholar you ask, is illegal. Or it's not illegal. Now, it is illegal for a candidate to coordinate with a super PAC in their race. That you can't do that. But in other races where you're not the person running, there is a little bit, and this is why campaign finance laws are so ridiculous, there's a little bit of cooperation allowed. She can appear in the ad, but she can't solicit funds. And if she does solicit funds, even though she's not allowed to, it says, you can't solicit more than $5,000. So you can't solicit, but if you do, it's okay as long as it's not over $5,000. This is literally the law, folks. Like, you can check the link in the description of this ProPublica piece. Like, that's how it works. And, of course, Greene raised way more than $5,000 off these ads. And that's where legal scholars vary. They say, well, we don't know if it means 5,000 total or 5,000 from each individual. So if you go through and find any Republican or donor, I guess it would be, that gave more than 5,000 as a result of Taylor Greene's ad, something you couldn't possibly hope to prove, then yeah, you got her. That's illegal. But as long as the donor says, no, I didn't do it because of her ad, then you don't got her. And it's technically not illegal. Because again, campaign finance laws are stupid in this country thanks to the conservative Supreme Court in cases like Citizens United and McCutcheon, that allows these super PACs to basically do whatever the hell they want without any fear of repercussions. Now, of course, the Federal Elections Commission could look into this, but they're not. Like, we know they're not. That's already a given. They're not going to do this. So whether she broke the law or not in this particular instance is almost immediately irrelevant because it's not going to be investigated. Now, I started this by saying she may have broken the law again. So what was the other time she broke the law? Well, for that one, you got to rewind the clock all the way back to actually just a week ago when it was revealed that her and her husband may have committed tax fraud in the state of Georgia by claiming homestead exemption on two separate properties that the couple owns. Now, not all states have homestead exemptions. I think most of them do. So if you're not familiar with that, you file homestead exemption for your residence. It reduces the taxes you have to pay. If you do it for a second residence, you lose it on the first one. If you try to do it on both, that's tax fraud. That's illegal. The documents clearly show they claimed it on two separate residences or two separate home properties, whatever it is. So that's pretty illegal right off the bat. So, even though with this super PAC thing, which again may or may not be illegal, it certainly looks like she violated campaign finance laws. Probably not going to be able to pop her on that. The other issue, the homestead exemption one, nobody's going to go to jail on that one. Probably pay some fines, some back taxes. I think it's upwards of like $12,000 total. So they're going to get popped on that. But don't be discouraged, right? Because here's the good thing about stupid criminals. They always give you a second chance. If you don't believe me, look at Matt Gaetz. Look at Donald Trump. Look at all these people from Trump world that Marjorie Taylor Greene desperately wants to be a part of. You may not have gotten them the first time, the second time, or even the third time, but that only emboldens them to commit more, and eventually they all come crashing down. More than 50,000 people in just a 24-hour span have signed on to a Change.org petition requesting Congress expel Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, this doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, right? Let's be totally honest about that. Congress does not even have to look at these petitions. They hold no, legally binding anything for Congress, so they don't have to listen, and I'm sure Congress will not, in fact, listen. And let's be honest, there's actually not enough numbers in Congress to actually expel Marjorie Taylor Greene from that body. However, I 100% agree that Marjorie Taylor Greene should be expelled from Congress. Now, this latest petition actually came about as a result of Taylor Greene's comments late last week, where she compared having to wear a mask on the House floor if she's not vaccinated to the Holocaust. She thinks those two things are indistinguishable. Don't infect other people versus let's exterminate an entire race of people. There's no difference in her warped little mind between those two events. So yes, people were rightfully furious about these comments. They started this petition. And of course, this is not the first controversy that Taylor Greene has been involved in. In fact, this woman has been nothing but controversy after controversy since finally coming to Congress. That's all she does. And to be honest, that's why I think that her own constituents need to get behind these petitions and these calls for her expulsion. Because when you get down to it, she's done nothing for them. I recently did a video asking, what was the purpose of Republicans in Congress anymore? Because they don't do anything. And I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is actually the best example of that. Hell, she's already been stripped of all of her committee assignments, so she has no power at all in the U.S. House of Representatives. She could do nothing, basically. And even if she could do something, she would still be doing nothing. Other than, of course, sparking controversies. So what is the purpose of even having her in that body other than to go out there and embarrass the Republican Party? And, of course, embarrass her constituents. The only reason she even won, by the way, is because she's in a deep red district and she ran unopposed, and she still only got, 74% of the vote. So even when you don't have an opponent, if you still only score, 3/4 of the vote, yeah, that's a problem. So I'm hopeful that maybe her constituents are going to vote her out, that maybe she'll have a tough primary challenger that will make her a one-term member of Congress. But I do think that her constituents and the entire Republican Party need to open their eyes and understand the damage that this woman is doing to them. I have not been shy about stating that I firmly believe there is something mentally wrong with Marjorie Taylor Greene. You can't watch that video that recently came out from actually, I think 2 years ago, where Marjorie Taylor Greene was trying to scream at AOC through the little mail slot on her door. This woman is clearly not all there. And it's embarrassing for her constituents and for the Republican Party. So they should be the ones signing this petition. They should be the ones pushing Congress to get her the hell out of there. She doesn't make your party look good. She makes you all look like crazy lunatics. Hell, as Liz Cheney put it, evil lunatics. Because that's what she is. And that is the brand that she is creating for your party. Let's not forget, she's out on tour right now with Matt Gaetz of all people, because I'm sure that's going to help her reputation, going around attacking fellow Republicans, saying that they're still going to continue to challenge the 2020 election. This woman is a blight on the Republican Party, and the longer they let her sit there and fester, the worse it is for them. So I'm glad this petition is out there. I'm glad it has more than 50,000 signatures in just over one day. But they need the Republican signatures, and Republicans need to wake up and understand that this woman is not doing you any favors. And if anything, she's dragging your entire party down to her level. And that level is one that can barely win elections, even when you're running unopposed. That's where you're headed, Republicans, if you don't get rid of Marjorie Taylor Greene. During an appearance on Steve Bannon's show earlier this week, Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene went on a rant about how Dr. Anthony Fauci should be prosecuted for the role he allegedly played, according to her, for years and years and years, sending money to research facilities in China where she says they created COVID-19. And of course, that theory that this was a man-made virus is certainly picking up steam. It's not as, crazy as it once seemed. However, Dr. Anthony Fauci's involvement in that, that's a little more on the extreme side. But then what happened during this clip is that Marjorie Taylor Greene, as she's wont to do, took a turn and admitted that she doesn't quite believe in what she referred to as science. Take a look at Marjorie Taylor Greene off on a tangent for a moment about evolution. Here it is.
No, I don't buy it because I don't believe in evolution. I don't believe in that type of so-called science. I don't believe in evolution. I believe in God.
Yeah, she doesn't believe in that science of evolution. No, she believes in God instead. God did it all. Every single thing that happens, everything that is happening. And you know what, though, Marjorie? I have to question this a little bit. I'll get into the politicization of science in just a moment. But if you do believe that God is, in fact, in charge of everything, then why do you keep denying that Donald Trump lost the election? Right? Wouldn't that also be God's work? Wouldn't there essentially be no free will at all for anyone ever? All of it is whatever God wants to do with his little puppet people walking around here on earth. But I guess that's a conversation for another day. The big thing here is she doesn't believe in evolution. Nope, you can't convince her, even with the scientific evidence to support the theory of evolution. Nope, none of that matters. Evolution is fake and God is real, even though the evidence is, on the opposite sides there. Here's the thing, though. This is what drives me crazy about this. Because it's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene. Obviously, we have large portions of Americans, a lot of them, most of them, on this particular issue, on the right, who can look at science, learn about it, and still say, nope, God did it. We have, in fact, politicized science here in the United States, not just on issues of evolution, but evolution is obviously one of the more contentious ones for the last few decades, really. But another issue is climate change. The science is clear on that. Okay, there is very little dissent whatsoever among actual real scientists that aren't on the payroll of fossil fuel companies. But Republicans choose to reject that and tell us that it's not real, that it's not happening, even though all of the data, all of the evidence is right there for anyone to look at should they choose to look at it. But if you believe in climate change, you're on the left. You believe in evolution, you're on the left. Because science itself is political now, and it shouldn't be. That's the problem. It's not just a Marjorie Taylor Greene issue. It is a Republican versus Democrat issue because somewhere along the way, they decided we're going to reject science in order to pander to our base and to pander to our donors. And that's exactly what this denial of evolution is. It's their way to pander to the religious right. That's why they do it. And I have no doubt that Marjorie Taylor Greene, in fact, does not believe in science. I firmly believe she is a science denier. I don't think she's doing it for political points. I think she's doing it because, like so many Americans, she's been brainwashed for decades with these idiotic talking points. But when you see somebody looking at the data, looking at actual science, and straight up saying, nope, I reject that because my opinions are better, the only thing left to assume at that point is because they have something to gain from it. Throwing in this little tidbit about, I don't believe in evolution, that's her pandering to the religious right. Republicans going out there saying, I don't believe in climate change, that's them pandering to the fossil fuel industry so they can get more money for their campaigns. It's been happening for such a long time that it's become commonplace in politics today. And we can never make real scientific strides or even improve education in this country as long as we continue to politicize science.
Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene went on a tear this week after 40 Democrats in the House of Representatives sent a letter to Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, one of the most spineless cowards in Congress, demanding that he do something, some kind of disciplinary action against Marjorie Taylor Greene. And the reasons are plentiful, and we've discussed them at length, but here's just a recap from the Hill. The incidents involving Greene mentioned including her berating Representative Cori Bush and causing her to move offices, hanging a sign outside her office that mocked a congresswoman's transgender pride flag, and of course her repeated confrontations with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And that's just a small sampling of some of the things that Marjorie Taylor Greene has done just this year. Okay, that's the thing everybody has to understand. Like, this is just the last 6 months. Okay? Just the last 6 months. She's a piece of crap. She is an absolutely abhorrent human being that has no business serving in Congress. And I'm going to get more to that in a minute, but here's Marjorie Taylor Greene's unhinged response. It's absurd Democrats accuse me of creating an environment of harassment for speaking at a Trump rally and defining them as who they are, communists. I receive constant harassment in public caused by the Democrat lies promoted by the media. Democrats singled me out and kicked me off committees for doing nothing wrong, and the death threats haven't stopped since. And now the witch hunt continues in an attempt to overturn my 2020 election and kick me out of Congress. She's the victim. A little tear. Yeah, honestly, you're a liar. Let me jump back to one thing you said, calling them what they are, communists. I would bet every dollar I have ever made from every job I have ever held since I turned 15 years old that Marjorie Taylor Greene could not define communism. Hell, I'll offer the same bet that Marjorie Taylor Greene could not define socialism. For that matter, probably can't even define capitalism. This is not a smart human being that we're dealing with. She is a typical Republican that throws out these idiotic buzzwords like communism, because that's what communism has become now. It's less a political ideology and more this obscure boogeyman that Republicans go out there and they mention that word and their idiotic supporters cower in fear. Oh, communism. Oh, we don't even know what it is, but we're scared of it. Yeah, grow the F up, people. Nobody in Congress that I know of is a communist. Nobody has promoted any kind of communist values in Congress. Nobody's proposing any communist pieces of legislation. It's a buzzword used by stupid people to convince even stupider people that they should be afraid of something they don't even know what it is. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing right there. But I want to go back to the culture of harassment, right? Workplace harassment. If any person working in any normal business here in the United States did even a small fraction of what Marjorie Taylor Greene has done to her coworkers, they'd be fired on the spot. Right? You wouldn't have to have investigations. There wouldn't be disciplinary hearings. You'd immediately get called down to HR. They'd say, listen, thanks, but you're out of here. This is inappropriate behavior for our workplace. You're going to get us sued, so we have to take action to get you the hell out of here. You are harassing your co-workers. Any other place in the country is going to do that. Not Congress, because it's 100% up to the spineless nitwit Kevin McCarthy to do something about it. And as we have seen, Kevin McCarthy, to his party's own detriment, is going to do nothing about it. And that's the thing. The longer Kevin McCarthy lets this crazy person sit in Congress, the more damage it does to the Republican Party. And trust me, it's actually not even worth it because she is causing real danger against these Democrats. She is the reason they're getting even more death threats. So yes, she does need to go. But Kevin McCarthy does have to understand Marjorie Taylor Greene, is the albatross that the entire Republican Party will be wearing around its neck for the next year and a half up to the midterms. You really want to stake your political future on that, Kevin? Not a smart play if you ask me. A hotel in California announced that they were canceling an America First rally that had been scheduled at this hotel and banquet hall after they learned that two of the featured speakers were going to be Republican Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz.
Here's what the general manager of that venue had to say. He said, as soon as we found out who the speakers were, we immediately canceled it. We just thought it would be best for our facility to cancel. So they're not making any apologies for this. They're not trying to whitewash it or, do the whole, we're not canceling them. No. They're just like, screw it. We saw what the lineup was and we looked at each other and said, holy crap, we can't let this happen. And I gotta tell you, I am a fan of free speech here in the United States. Everybody has the right, to say what they want to say without fear of government censorship. That is actually what free speech means, by the way. But I am also 100% supportive of any venue that wants to cancel an appearance by Matt Gaetz and or Marjorie Taylor Greene just based on how horrible those two human beings are. Not even as representatives, but as human beings in general. The behavior we have seen from these two individuals, partisan politics aside, these, in my opinion, are very gross human beings. They're the worst of the worst, right? These aren't the kind of people you'd want to spend a nice Friday evening with. You wouldn't want to go out and have drinks or meet up at a, coffee shop just to chit-chat with. These are horribly gross, disgusting people. And they have repeatedly shown that with their behavior. So again, I have no problem with this venue deciding, you know what? We don't want to associate with that. We don't want to be seen as enablers of this kind of behavior. And of course, the circus that always erupts when these two get together. We don't want any part of it. We know it's going to cost us money. Hell, may even get us some bad publicity. But you know what? We're willing to take that hit so that we don't appear to be condoning what happens there. So I applaud the venue for doing the right thing here. Putting money aside and saying, I know, of course, as a business, our only business is making money. But we're willing to sacrifice that to not get drawn into the ridiculous idiocracy that these two individuals are trying to create. So good on the venue. And I hope more venues, more hotels, more banquet halls take note of this. It's okay to do this. It's okay to not give these two idiots a platform to spread their hatred and their lies, because that's all this is. And so anybody who helps to cut down or at least stall hatred and lies here in the United States, you're okay in my book. Through many, many years of doing what I do, there have been plenty of times where I have actually applauded the ideas of people that I pretty much disagree with 100% of the time. There's been my agreement with Ted Cruz on term limits for members of Congress. There's been Tomi Lahren saying that the government shouldn't regulate or basically ban abortion. She actually thinks, to a degree, women should have the right to choose what to do with their own bodies. But I can guarantee you one thing. I will never, ever have to agree or even applaud anything that Marjorie Taylor Greene says because she is so painfully ignorant. I am confident she will never say anything smart or ever come up with a good idea. See, we got another glimpse this week at just how ignorant this human being truly is. She was being interviewed by a CBS reporter earlier this week who asked her, "Have you been vaccinated?" And she responded by saying that your question is a violation of my HIPAA rights, HIPAA rights. That's a violation of them, she says. And the reporter let it be. Okay, don't answer the question. Don't tell us whether or not you've been vaccinated. But I wish the reporter would have pushed back a little more. I wish the reporter would have said, could you explain to me, Representative Greene, what HIPAA rights are then if you think I just violated your HIPAA rights? Because what Marjorie Greene was trying to say was, I'm not going to tell you. But instead, she came across as a complete idiot, acting like, oh, I know the law and you don't. No, you clearly don't know what HIPAA violations are. Here's the thing. Anyone in this country has the right to ask you a question about your medical history.
You, as an individual, have the right to answer or not answer that question. But that's nothing having to do with HIPAA. Okay, that's actually more of a free speech issue, I guess. It's really not an issue at all. What HIPAA says is that your doctor cannot just release your medical information without your knowledge or consent. That's what that is. This man wasn't approaching Marjorie Taylor Greene's doctor, badgering that person to tell, oh, has she been vaccinated or not? You can tell me. That would have been a violation of HIPAA rights had the doctor released that info. A reporter asking you that question, that is not a violation of literally any right that any American citizen has. If you don't want to answer, sack up and just say, you know what, I'm not going to answer that. But that's not what she did. She is trying to intentionally muddy the waters here. And I feel honestly like what she did, some people are speculating, oh, that proves she got it, or oh, that proves she didn't get it. No, here's what it did to me. It gave her idiot followers a talking point so that if they're ever asked, are you vaccinated? They're going to say the same thing. What she's doing is essentially throwing a new talking point out there for morons to use. That's what this was about. It's a stupid talking point. It's a false talking point. It's not actually based in HIPAA law whatsoever, but she said it, and I guarantee you we're going to see more morons across the country using that as an excuse to not reveal whether or not they've been vaccinated, especially at a time when the COVID-19 variants are running wild here in the United States. If you don't want to say whether or not you're vaccinated, just don't say it. I think it's ridiculous, right? But don't try to hide behind a law that you know nothing about that actually doesn't protect you from that question. Because all that's going to do is make you look even dumber than you actually are. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is proving more and more, pretty much every time she goes out in public, that she is completely incapable of any kind of empathy, of any kind of introspection. I mean, true sociopathic behavior. And we got another great example of it this week when a reporter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, asked her about the deaths that were being caused in the United States from COVID. And this was basically in response to Marjorie Taylor Greene saying earlier in the week that the only people who have to worry about COVID are the obese and the elderly. The reporter pointed out, well, that's not true. And here's how Marjorie Taylor Greene responded. Take a look. I'll let the clip speak for itself. Here it is.
It's dangerous.
Do you feel any responsibility for keeping people in Georgia safe? There are children, skinny people who have died of the coronavirus. Do you feel any responsibility?
Tia, you crack me up. You know what? I think people's responsibility is their own.
There's times when sometimes there's nothing to say. I've struggled coming up with a response for this. I know what I'd like to say. I also know that thanks to restrictions on, YouTube's terms of service, I can't say those things out loud. I'm thinking them. I hope everybody understands that, man, I'm thinking it right now. But truly, this is psychopathic behavior. Hey, you're out there actively encouraging people to not protect themselves against the virus. What do you think of that? That's crazy. A sane individual wouldn't respond that way, especially considering the fact that what's got everybody on edge right now is you had a perfectly healthy 5-year-old child, obviously not vaccinated because we don't have vaccines for that age group yet, perfectly healthy 5-year-old child in her district died from COVID. And this is her response, laughing. You crack me up, she says. This is deranged. I want that clip played in every single ad that Democrats run between now and the 2020 midterm election. I don't care who you're running against. I don't care where you're running. I don't care what office you're running for. I want you to run that clip in every single friggin' ad. Because that's what needs to happen, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is the Republican Party now. That's what they have become. That is the worst of the worst, and that is what is being promoted as today's Republican Party. So she needs to be the face of it. She's the face of COVID at this point. But Democrats need to do what Republicans have been doing, trying to say the entire entire Democratic Party is AOC. They're all socialists and they want to destroy it. No. Paint the entire Republican Party as Marjorie Taylor Greene's. Play that clip. Maybe juxtapose it with an image of the 5-year-old child who's now dead in her district. I am angry. You should be angry. And we need to understand there's very few sane people throughout history, few if any, honestly, that would react to that question by laughing. In my opinion, this woman is not well. She should not be in normal society. She is, again, in my opinion, absolutely deranged and needs to be in a padded room until she can either be cured or until she's no longer a threat. That's what I believe about Marjorie Taylor Greene. You don't react that way if everything is perfectly normal inside your head. But that's what she did. And Democrats need to get on it and make her the face of the Republican Party from now till the end of time, because that's what they stand for. Last week, Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene gave a speech in the state of Alabama that basically went unnoticed until it was revealed that she encouraged the crowd to take up arms against the federal government. Here's what happened. In fact, I'm just going to read her own words so you know. Biden is going to be sending one of his police state friends to your door. Now, she said that this was going to happen to check and see if people are vaccinated. That Biden is apparently going to send his police officers door to door to see who is vaccinated and who is not. Now, she doesn't specify, by the way, what happens if you say you're not vaccinated or what happens if you say you are. So, not really sure why she adds the second part if it's just really a census at that point, but here it is. We all love our Second Amendment rights, and we don't like the federal government coming on our property to tell us what to do. You have HIPAA rights, and you do not have to tell your medical information. You can tell them to get off your front porch and get off your front lawn. Literally nothing that you said is correct. Here's the thing, though. Before I get into why everything that you said is incorrect, let me just be clear here. By saying you love your Second Amendment rights, what is very obviously happening here is that she is strongly implying, and this is about the only way you can interpret this, that she would be implying that these people use their Second Amendment rights against what they view as an oppressive, tyrannical government. So if that is how we interpret this, we would have to come to the conclusion that she is encouraging them to shoot people. Okay? Obviously, those aren't the exact words that she said. But again, the way I'm reading this really seems like she is encouraging these people to use their, quote, Second Amendment rights against these government workers. Now, let's also remember, this isn't a thing that's happening. This is just a right-wing talking point that Biden's going to send people door to door to find out if you're vaccinated. That has not happened. And as far as we know, it's not going to happen. The rest of her statements. You have HIPAA rights. You don't have to reveal your medical information. HIPAA doesn't cover that, actually. Now, you have First Amendment rights. You have legal rights that say you don't have to disclose this if somebody comes knocking on your door. Absolutely. HIPAA would be if the government, instead of knocking on your door, knocked on your doctor's door and said, hey, is John Smith
at whatever address, is he vaccinated? If your doctor revealed the information, that would be a violation of HIPAA. But of course, we can't expect these Nimrods to fully understand what that means. And what else did she say? You can tell them to get off your front porch and get off your front lawn. If it is in fact law enforcement officials on official business, actually you can't. This woman is so incredibly brain dead that it's just unbelievable at this point. No, guess what? If a police officer has any kind of reason, probable cause, a warrant, whatever it is, you can't just say no. Like, legally, you can't make them get off your property. And back to her original thing, we all love our Second Amendment, don't we? And we don't like the government coming to our door. If you are, in fact, implying that they should shoot these people, do you know what's going to happen then? You're going to go to jail. You're going to go to prison for a very long time. And then just wait and see how many of your rights are violated at that point. Here's the thing. There's no door-to-door vaccine knockers. There's absolutely nobody checking up door-to-door from the federal government to see if you're vaccinated. What Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing right here is spreading fear, spreading paranoia, spreading conspiracy theories, and spreading lies. Because that's all she has. You know what else is spreading at the same time? The Delta variant of the coronavirus. If you can get vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you have questions about the safety or efficacy of it, go talk to a physician about it. Don't listen to some Yahoo moron giving a speech where she says 5 false things in the span of 2 sentences. Because that's what you're getting if you're listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene believes that the Capitol rioters who are currently in jail, either because they're awaiting trial and they've been deemed too dangerous to release, or because they've already pleaded guilty, or if they've already been convicted, whatever it is, she wants them all released from prison because she says they are political prisoners. And she used a recent appearance on Steve Bannon's program to make quite possibly the worst analogy between the Capitol rioters and the frickin' Taliban. Here is what she had to say. There were 5,000 terrorist prisoners released from a camp, set free. Here are my thoughts. Here we have people being held in prison that were at the Capitol on January 6th. They're being treated like political prisoners of war, but yet we have President Biden and Kamala Harris, don't forget her, hold her accountable, and this entire administration that allowed terrorists that will chop your head off, throw gay people off of buildings, that will cover women in burqas and shove them in homes and treat them like slaves, never to be seen from again. Are you talking about the Taliban at that point, or are you still talking about the Capitol rioters? Because it's not exactly clear which group you're talking about at that point. But let's address the idiotic claims you make here. First and foremost, there is no evidence whatsoever that these people are being mistreated in prison. Nobody has yet to be able to produce any evidence at all to suggest what Marjorie Taylor Greene and, of course, Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan and Gohmert have been pushing for some time now, and that is that these people are somehow being mistreated. No. Most of them that were arrested were released pending trial. The ones that were not is because it was deemed that they were a flight risk, that they were a danger, that they were a threat. Happens all the time in the judicial system. Literally happens every day here in the United States. These people are no different. They go through the same type of process. Is this person going to be a normal member of society while they await their trial? Or are they going to go out and commit other crimes, hurt other people, flee the country possibly? It gets weighed in every single criminal case. That's what happened. But I wouldn't expect Marjorie Taylor Greene, the former CrossFit person, to understand how the judicial process works here in the United States. The other point that I think is very important is you're saying, oh, it's ridiculous the Taliban released these people and Biden let them. Okay, Biden didn't let them do that. Like, Biden didn't call them up on the phone and say, hey, while you're storming the place, why don't you go ahead and release all those crazy... Nope, that's not what happened either, Marjorie. Joe Biden has no part in the fact that they over there in a different country that we've been in for 20 years too long did. Furthermore, if you want to make the case that your buddies need to be let out of jail, comparing them to people who, as you say, cut people's heads off and throw gay people off of buildings, yeah, probably not the best analogy. Well, if people who chop heads off are allowed to go, let's get these people out of jail because, you know, tomato, tomato. Yikes! Not to mention the fact terrorists overtook a country, did horrible things, and you're saying, well, because they got to do horrible things, we should get to do horrible things too. That's also not how it works. I am every day shocked at the level of stupidity we see coming out of this human being, Marjorie Taylor Greene. It is astounding how dumb this person is. Who ties her shoes in the morning? Who helps her get dressed? Because at this point, I am not convinced that she has enough scruples to be able to do it herself. Like, there's got to be somebody behind the scenes saying, like, okay, first arm in, okay. It blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. And the worst part is, much like Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan, she's from a deep red district. And if she wins her primary, she's going to be back in Congress for another 2 years at least after this. That's a terrifying thought. But that's the way it breaks down. Marjorie Taylor Greene and her insanity are likely not going anywhere. And that's really sad for the United States. Republican Governor Brian Kemp from Georgia is facing a lot of backlash from Trump supporters, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, in his own state because on August 17th, his office released a statement actually welcoming refugees from Afghanistan into the state of Georgia. You know, this was actually a very shocking move from this Republican governor in Georgia saying, listen, we will take as many as we can. And I applaud Brian Kemp for saying this. Again, something totally unexpected from this guy. But this decision is the right decision. And I'll get more to that in a minute. But as I mentioned, this pissed off a lot of right-wingers, especially Marjorie Taylor Greene, who took to Twitter because she's out of her little timeout and said this. Georgia shouldn't welcome Afghan refugees while thousands of Americans are stranded. Vet them outside the U.S. just like remain in Mexico. Will this bring chain migration too? How much will it cost Georgia taxpayers and government assistance? The future of Georgia shouldn't be like Minnesota that voted for Omar. Obviously referring to Ilhan Omar from Minnesota. And what she's really doing is not just attacking Brian Kemp. She doesn't care about the tax money. She doesn't care about government assistance because we all know the federal government is going to end up paying these people to do these things. What she's mad about is bringing in non-white people into the state of Georgia, right? I mean, that's pretty much what we can gather from her statement. Because she also brings up Mexican immigrants. So yeah, I mean, to me, seems pretty clear that she just doesn't want more non-white people in the state of Georgia. Another one, far-right MAGA Republican Stacey Rush tweeted this. At Governor Kemp, truly the worst governor. I'm all for assisting vetted refugees, but we all know they won't be. Can't wait to vote for anyone other than Brian Kemp for Georgia governor. Then you had Ted Ryan, former George W. Bush speechwriter, who tweeted, hopefully Kemp gets crushed in the primary. Y'all are all horrible human beings. Can we just get that out of the way? Like, you folks are just terrible. This isn't going to affect your life in any negative way, I can promise you. You just don't want these non-white people coming in. And I love how Rush is like, oh, I mean, maybe the properly vetted ones, but that's never going to happen. Here's the thing. We spent 20 years, over $2 trillion, destroying Afghanistan. Propping up a government that folded like a lawn chair as soon as we left, training a military that immediately collapsed, and the country fell. It did. but it fell because of what we did to it, the United States. Democratic and Republican presidents alike. Democratic and Republican Congresses. There is no one single person to blame, although George W. Bush does deserve most of the blame. But there were plenty of other failures all along the way by plenty of other administrations. Again, over $2 trillion spent just on Afghanistan. Billions of dollars a year to train that military. All to allegedly protect these Afghan citizens. And we failed. We failed them. So we owe it to them. Maybe if we're not spending billions of dollars a year in Afghanistan anymore, maybe we can afford to bring in as many of these people as possible. Maybe we can afford to give states a little something extra if you're just willing to take in some of these refugees and get them settled here in America. There was a wonderful viral tweet that showed the a camera shot, a picture. God, I don't know why I lost that word for a moment. Showed a picture of inside the big plane with all of those refugees in it. And somebody pointed out, these are not refugees. There's future doctors in here. There's future lawyers. There's future small business owners. There's future farmers. There's future scholars. And these people are the future of the United States. We owe them that. And that picture to me was very telling, it was very powerful, and it's very true. So I don't give a damn if these MAGA Republicans are freaking out because Brian Kemp finally did one good thing. I applaud Brian Kemp for this decision to take in these refugees, and I hope to God he doesn't cave just because a couple of lunatics are mad at him. This week, Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene took a break from her workout to issue a rather unpleasant message to Joe Biden, which she pushed on the conservative social media site Gettr. Here is the beginning of that little video that she put out, just the first couple of seconds, so take a look at what she had to say. Here it is.
Joe Biden, you're not a president. You're a piece of shit.
Okay, counter argument here. Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're a piece of shit. I kind of like this game. I think that's a little fun. By the way, the clip does continue. This is just the part that was going around social media, but she does continue and says, thousands of Americans are stuck over there in Afghanistan and you're letting the Taliban kick your ass while you're lecturing governors about masks and vaccines. Do your job. Bring these Americans home. First and foremost, those two things have absolutely nothing to do with each other. You see, a president is actually required to deal with multiple things at one time. I know that's a foreign concept to nutballs like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but yeah, he's actually doing both. And for the record, your statement about him just leaving Americans over there is also false because they've come out and said we're not going to finish pulling out the troops till every single American's out of the country, so what the hell are you even pissed off about? Like, he's literally doing what you're saying he's not doing. And a couple other things that are of interest in that video. One, I'm also distracted by the fact that they've got Limp Bizkit played in the gym background. But second, think about this. Think about the implication of this video, okay? She's obviously at a gym. She's working out, and you see the sweat on her face. But she apparently got so worked up while doing her workout, with this on her brain, pissed off enough to say, you know what, dang it, I gotta stop doing a video and I'm gonna record myself on a phone. And the video itself looks like she's either getting ready to explain how she got these scars or announce that she is holding the city of Gotham for ransom. I mean, that's how deranged she comes across in that video. Users on social media were quick to point out that this looks psychotic. And it absolutely does. And at this point, it's very clear we've established a pattern of behavior for Marjorie Taylor Greene. But I have another theory I want to toss out there. And this is just, wild guess here. If she was working out and then got so worked up to throw out this angry video, could it be that she's on something that makes her exceptionally irritable and angry? I don't know. I've taken prednisone
which is an oral steroid for use to strengthen your lungs after, for me, bad asthma attack or bronchitis or anything like that. And it makes me super irritable and angry like that, prone to outbreaks, because it is a form of steroids. So maybe she needs to check what medication she might be on that would cause these frank psychotic episodes, which also, by the way, is listed as a side effect in those words as prednisone, oral steroids. So, that's a possibility. I don't know. I don't want to make excuses for her ridiculous behavior because we have seen her do things like this in the past. We saw the psychotic video of her before she was even a member of Congress, trying to peek through the mail slot on AOC's office door. She has reportedly harassed her fellow lawmakers, chasing them down the hall, screaming at them. This is who she is. A deranged, unhinged individual. And the longer she sits in Congress, the more of a threat she is to those other members of Congress. Their safety at this point, I fear, is in jeopardy. Because you never know what this human being, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is going to do. And at the end of the day, this rests on the shoulders of Republican Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. You're letting her fester in there. You think this looks good for your party? You think this is going to catapult Republicans to a victory in the 2022 midterms? Or do you think that maybe standing up against a crazy person in your party might be the best path forward for you? Show the rest of the country that this is not representative of what the Republican Party is, because up to the point where you do that, it's safe to say Republicans are completely okay and accepting of this kind of behavior. This is who they all are at this point. On Monday, Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene reminded us all just how incompetent and, well, let's face it, how big of a moron she truly is. And she did that by tweeting out the following. Here's what she said. The Taliban would have never, in all caps, said no to President Trump, but they just told Biden no to extending the August 31st deadline to pull troops. Biden abandoned Americans and dishonored our military, veterans, and allies. Biden has disgraced America. Biden must be impeached, she tells us. Marjorie, I'm gonna dissect this from the beginning and then go from there. Taliban would never have said no to Donald Trump. You know what? You may not be wrong about that. You may not be wrong. Because here's the kicker, Marjorie. They never had a reason to tell him no. Because he already gave them everything he wanted and asked for virtually nothing in exchange. Yeah, quite the deal maker there, right? Like, I'm going to release hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of your members from prison. I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to make you sign any deals with the Afghani government. So, if we pull out, you can do whatever the hell you want there. And, just don't shoot at us until we get everybody out. And the Taliban was like, yeah, sure, cool. That sounds wonderful. We can overtake the country as soon as you leave. And we get all our people back out of jail. Yeah, they had no reason to tell him no. Again, because he didn't ask. All he said was, hey, could you not kill as many of us as possible? That'd be cool. We don't care what you do to the Afghan government that the United States spent trillions of dollars propping up. No, that doesn't matter to him. Biden has disgraced America. Biden ended a 20-year war with no agenda, no goal, and no real strategy for winning it. Admittedly, yeah, his strategy of just suddenly being like, screw it, we're out, caused chaos and destabilization, but let's face it, that would have happened at any point. It would have happened if we stayed another 10 years. Would have happened if we got out 10 years ago. Not exactly sure what he could have done differently. Sure, we would have liked it to have been different. But at the same time, it was time to go. It was time to go. And I agree with his decision to do it. I would have preferred it, if they had been thinking about it strategically for a little bit and then done it. But hey, you get what you get. So there it is. Biden must be impeached. How? I am so sick and tired of just this impeachment idea being thrown around just because you don't like somebody. Okay?
Do you know how many times Republicans tried to impeach Barack Obama? You know what? I forget the exact number, so let's actually look it up. How many times Republicans impeach Obama? Real quick search here. Here it is. A grand total of no fewer than 13 times Republicans tried to impeach Obama. And of course, it was things from pushing his agenda. That's one of the things. Immigration policy, his use of drones, Libya intervention, Benghazi attack, Affordable Care Act, the birtherism, the IRS allegedly targeting conservatives. The list goes on. But at least 13 different issues, not just 13 times, by the way. I misspoke when I first said that. 13 different issues on which they attempted to impeach Barack Obama. And now here we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who this is now actually her second time wanting to impeach Joe Biden. She wanted to impeach him day one of his administration. She's now churned out articles of impeachment. There were no high crimes and misdemeanors. Every president is going to do stuff that you don't like, even if you like the president, even if it's a member of your party, they're going to do stuff you don't like. That does not rise to the level of criminal activity, high crimes and misdemeanors for which you can impeach them. And I am sick and damn tired of hearing idiots like Marjorie Taylor Greene every time the president sneezes, if they're a Democrat, saying, we're going to impeach the effer. You're an idiot. The Taliban didn't need to tell Trump no because he already gave them everything he wanted and asked for nothing in return. And you can't impeach Joe Biden for finally ending a 20-year disaster in Afghanistan. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is not too happy about the fact that the January 6th Select Committee is seeking the cell phone records of several members of Congress, of which Marjorie Taylor Greene is believed to be one of them. We do not have, by the way, the complete list. We do not know exactly which members the committee is trying to get cell phone records for, but we do know that they're trying to get the records of anyone that may have been involved, anyone who spoke at, anyone who helped in the planning of the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is fairly confident that she is in fact a target of this, and she went on Tucker Carlson's show earlier this week and said that if the telecom companies actually comply with the request from this committee, that she is somehow going to shut them down. Here's what she said. If these telecommunications companies, if they go along with this, they will be shut down, and that's a promise. If members of Congress can have their personal cell phone data exposed just to hurt us politically in the next election, then we are going into a dangerous place in this country. No, you see, Marjorie, we went to a dangerous place in this country. That dangerous place was the Capitol on January 6th, where people who support you and your politics and your party stormed the Capitol. That, you see, was the dangerous place. You also do not have the ability or the authority to literally shut down any company in the country, Marjorie. I'm sorry. I know that comes as a shock, but you can't do that. Here's where things get stupider. Turns out Marjorie Taylor Greene is not the only Republican saying they need these records. Kevin McCarthy, House Minority Leader, has also threatened these companies. Said, Republican majority will not forget if they provide the Capitol Riot Commission with the telephone records of GOP lawmakers who may have spoken with former President Donald Trump on the day of January 6th. We will not forget. Cool. What are you going to do? Like, for real, Kevin McCarthy, Marjorie Taylor Greene, honest to God, what are y'all going to do? What are you going to do when these telecom companies don't comply and then they get subpoenaed, meaning they legally have to do it, basically? What are you going to do when they turn these records over? And the answer is nothing. But I'll tell you what they should do is lawyer up. Because if I'm looking at this objectively, to me, this looks like obstruction of justice, right? You're essentially threatening a witness. You're threatening that if somebody goes along with an investigation and provides documents requested via subpoena, that if they go along with that, you're going to, as Marjorie Taylor Greene said, shut them down. Yeah, that's obstruction of justice. Very clearly. Now, if this were an actual federal investigation, there's no doubt in my mind that these individuals would likely spark a new investigation into obstruction of justice, but because this is just a simple select committee doing this, probably may not rise to the level of criminality. But it should. Because again, in any other investigation, whether it's a federal investigation, a local investigation, if you were to make the same kind of threat to an individual cooperating with the investigation, you'd be hit with obstruction charges. So I don't understand why it's different here. And also, what the hell are you trying to hide, right? To me, that's the biggest one. Marjorie Taylor Greene knows that this information is not being sought to make her lose her next election. She's in a deep red district. Unless she has a Republican challenger who's further to the right than her, yeah, she's going to win. And that's terrifying, but it's reality. So, what are you so afraid of? Kevin McCarthy, what are you afraid of? Not to mention, Kev, let's not forget, buddy, you actually had the opportunity to have your Republicans on the committee, but you decided to basically troll Nancy Pelosi with the selection of Jim Jordan. And so you then got in a hissy fit and withdrew all your people. You could have had one hand on the steering wheel here. You are the reason that didn't happen. You made that decision. I hope the committee gets their hands on all these records. And I hope it helps them with their investigation. I do not want them to release it just to hurt somebody politically. Absolutely not. Let's keep this professional. Because I'm fairly certain that whatever comes out of this investigation should have the effect of doing all the damage to Republicans that needs to be done by doing nothing more than exposing the truth.